momentarily. This is your last call to submit your questions. I did ask you earlier if we could get these filled out. We're going to get to as many questions as we can this evening, and we will have hopefully a healthy and respectful dialogue with the governor this evening. I ask that we all remain civil, and there's no standing up, shouting. So again, we will get to as many questions as we can tonight. I've been going through them. There's some really good questions here, and we're not going to filter.
Yeah,
we're just going to go through them one by one. So if you do have a question, please feel free to grab me, give me your sheet. If it's at some point throughout the evening that you think of a question, let me know, and we'll
Welcome. My name is Glenn Cummings. I'm the president of the University of Southern Maine, and welcome you all here today. Thank you for being here. It is my honor to tell you that the University of Southern Maine takes a lot of pride in having a dialogue about our democracy, about our environment, about our human resources, and about our energy policy. And so we are just delighted today to have our Chief Executive Officer of the state of Maine, Governor Paul LePage, with us today. I'll say on a couple notes. First of all, he has gone all around the state and asked people to listen to what he has to say and then listen to them. And to me, that is a hallmark of a democracy, when you can have those conversations with your Chief Executive Officer, with your governor of your state. Whether you agree or not, what's important is that it's been done civilly, and people can affirm at least that they've heard each other. And that, to me, is the foundation that when he has these community forums, that's the kind of things that help us strengthen our democracy. And I want to thank the governor personally. And I never got a chance to thank him, by the way, for something in my career that was transformative. And he was exceptionally good. I took over an old dying farm school that had housed mostly at-risk boys for about 100 years and had gone almost out of business. And I went in to the governor and I said, I've got this idea, and I just want you to hear me out. And he heard me out. And I said, I think we could combine that place, it was the old Goodwill Hinckley site, between Skowhegan and Waterville. And I said, there are a lot of kids who are struggling and dropping out of high school, and they're costing us a lot of money. And more importantly, we know they have huge potential. And would you help out? And I got to tell you, honest to God, this governor said, at-risk kids, career technical education, I will help make this work. He said, how much do you honestly need? I told him how much I honestly need. He put that exact amount in the budget, and he continues to fund that school and get them up there. Today, they have over 125 students and a wait list for kids at risk. And I never got a chance to thank the governor, but thank you. We have, as is the tradition, as Senator Guzowski and other people know, it was always our tradition every morning when I was Speaker of the House to say the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would rise and join me, I will start off the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in welcoming Governor LePage.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here. And more so than some of the other town hall meetings that we've done, because this morning I got a briefing on the financial forecast for the next few years. There were 6 items on the financial forecast this morning. I'm going to speak of 4 of them tonight. And the leadership of the legislature will be brought in before the start of the session to be brought up to speed on where we are as a state. There are 4 issues I want to talk to you tonight. But before I start, I'd like to make a few comments. I'm not here to persuade you, to convince you, to support me, or to agree with what I'm doing. What I am here to tell you is what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And you can agree with me or disagree with me. But the prosperity of the state, from where it was in 2011, is dramatically better today than it was 5 years ago. Now, I will be speaking about 4 different topics, and then I'll open it up for questions. First of all, first topic is income tax. There are 9 states in the United States that have no income tax, and every one of them is significantly, leaps and bounds, more prosperous than the state of Maine. We are still in the, I think right now about 42 in the country as prosperity goes, down from about 48 5 years ago. We are one of the better states for employment, for the percentage of labor force employed. However, we are one of the most significantly underemployed states in the country. There is some good news and there's some bad news. Now, I believe income tax is one. And before I start there, I want to say this. There are 3 types of voters, or 3 types of constituents. There are believers, persuadables, and hostiles. I hope tonight that we can keep it to the first 2. Because I'm outnumbered. Secondly, I want to congratulate the mayor of Portland, Edith Strimley, for becoming the mayor of Portland. And Ethan and I have different views about things, but Ethan and I have been able to work together, particularly with adverse kids in his Learning Works program. And I look forward to expanding on that and working with them for the betterment of the whole city of Portland. It has been a difficult place to work with, and I think that this is going to change. The other thing I want to talk about is the legislature. And I'll be the first one to say that whenever you go in, I've been in business for 40 years, and I've done about 20 of the 40 years has been done in workouts and turnarounds, which means troubled companies, companies on the verge of going under. And it takes a different kind of management style to be overturned. When I ran for governor, it was simply because Maine was one of the worst states with fiscal policy in the United States of America. It was one of the worst performing states. It's still not performing to where it's capable of. So what do I want to do? I want to get, we took an inventory of its strengths and weaknesses, and then we started working on the weaknesses. One of the clear pictures of investment capital in a prosperous state is investment capital. Money will go where it's appreciated, and it stays where it goes where it's welcomed, first of all, and then it stays where it's appreciated. I look at, and I'll give you a few states: South Dakota, Wyoming, Texas, Florida. Florida, since the recession, we have 1.2 million people. Since 2011, have created over 1 million jobs, almost the size of the state of Maine. No income tax. South Dakota, per capita income, much stronger than the state of Maine. No income tax. State of Wyoming, well, the size of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and parts of Quebec, with 600,000 people, $9 billion surplus in the bank, no income tax. Texas, fastest growing state in America, no income tax. So when I look at the legislature, and I've had my difficulties, I've evaluated the legislature to 3 categories. 1/3 go there. Well, first of all, on the first day of legislature, 181 people are there to save the state and do the best thing for the state. No question about it. After about 2 weeks, it breaks down this way. 1/3 are there to do what's best for the Maine people all of the time. 1/3 are there for their local agenda, might be their own constituency and their own well-being. It's about 1/3. And we all know of some of them that have been there since the 1960s. Then there's the third group. And you know, the first 2, those are workable. The third group is the worst group that you could ever send to a legislature. That is the one that is elected. They take their little red plate or their little blue plate, put it on the car, and you never hear a peep out of them until it's time to push the voting button, because they're told how to work and how to vote. Bad people. Bad people, because we're losing out on a lot of people in this audience that should be there helping us fix the problems. Big issue. So, I make no bones about being a tough manager. I'm not an unreasonable manager. I'm just a very, very tough negotiator. And I have not met anyone in Augusta who is willing to sit and negotiate, with the exception of one person who is no longer the speaker. But he was a great negotiator. Quiet, but really powerful. But he's no longer there, so there's no sense talking about it. So, income tax. I believe the minimum income tax or that we should have is 0. I think the maximum income tax we should have is 4%. In 2000, I was just saying a few minutes ago, 2011, the first biennial, we had $2.9 billion general revenues. This year's $3.4 billion. We've cut the taxes from 8.5 to 7.15. The prospects for next year are even better. The next 2 years, when you see the forecast, it's phenomenal how much growth we're going to be seeing. But it's about allowing people to keep more money in their pocket and letting people make the decisions how they want to spend the money, not government. We make a very horrible decision on how to spend your money. I'll give you an example right now. How many of you here in this audience realize that we have a drug problem in Maine? I have asked the legislature to give me 10 DEA agents. But this is what they did. They refused to give me 10 DEA agents, but we are going to have them. Believe, I promise you, I'm getting them. They gave us 4, we asked for 14. I need 10 more, we're going to go get them. This is what they did. Right now, with state police, we have 32 vacancies. 32 vacancies. And we are working very hard to try to fill them. And I'll tell you what the problems are. So in the infamous wisdom of our legislature, they decided to do a cold case squad. I'm all in for a cold case squad. If we can afford it and have the people, I'm all in. But what they did is they put in legislation, we will have a cold case squad. We have a cold case squad. Now my vacancies in state police is 35 people. On Saturdays, in the county of Aroostook, our largest county, from 10 o'clock on, I think it's 1 person till 6 a.m. in that whole county the size of Connecticut. That's not good management, folks. That open, and you guess where the heroin sells for the highest price? In Aroostook County. Those are the type of things we're trying to fight. I want to take $1.2 billion of income tax and give it back to you folks, and to allow you to make the decisions how you're going to spend it. And statistics will show, the large data will show that the overwhelming majority of the people that have more money in their pocket will invest in their homes, in their vehicles, in the economy. And a certain percentage will go into savings. Americans, as a society, are the least savers in the world. The French are number one and the Japanese are number two. We just don't save money. We like nice things. So I believe that the 803,000 people, there's 803,000 people in the state of Maine that pay the entire income tax bill on the personal income tax. 803,000 out of 1.3 million pay the income tax. This summer, between May 31st and Labor Day, we had somewhere around 36 million visitors to the state of Maine. Let's increase the sales tax by a point. You increase the sales tax by a point and let them pay more. Are they going to pay less? Look at Florida. Look at South Carolina. Look at California. All major tourist places, and their sales tax are all significantly higher than the state of Maine. And Maine, in my estimation, is the most beautiful state in the United States of America. That's why I've stayed here my whole life. We could have gone many places, but we decided to stay underemployed here in Maine. And now as governor, I think I qualify for food stamps. Second topic, welfare reform. In the last budget, in the biennial budgets, we've had 2 biennial budgets, 3 biennial budgets, and 8 supplemental budgets. The first budget was the very first one in 2011. I thought it was a horrible budget, but I signed it to go along and get along, to try to show that we could work together. That's the last time that I was able to sign that budget, because I told them that they would be back and we were $200 million short. And so that people say, well, in 2015, you're spending more money than we had in the last 5 years. But they don't put in the supplemental budgets. If you take the biennial budget and you add in the 8 supplemental budgets, we are cutting costs big time. I'll give you an example. In the budget right now, there are 13,800 jobs budgeted. 13,800 jobs that are in the budget. I've been tracking how many paychecks we do every 2 weeks. For the last 3.5 years, we're averaging under 12,000. We're averaging about 11,900. We don't need all that spending because we're not spending it. What it ends up as a surplus at the end of the year. And in Maine, we have this deal called cascading. So what they do is they pass a budget, and they say, if there's money left over at the end of the year, we'll spend it here, 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 and here. So every single year that I've been your governor, we've had a surplus on June 30th. And we're in the red on July 1st because of cascading. This budget's the first budget that doesn't have a cascade in. They have a little cascade, but they've taken away all the gimmicks. Because of a little Christmas tree we put out in July last year. It was in July, June maybe it was. So that's what it's all about. So welfare, I'll be the first to tell you that a safety net is critically important in the state of Maine. And this last budget, I put a budget together that would have eliminated anyone with a disability, anyone that was over 65, and any mentally ill person in the state of Maine was going to get the services that they qualified for. They would have got them. We've got rid of the 4,200 people waiting list that we've had since I've been your governor. So what happened? I put $46 million, it costs $46 million to eliminate it. We ended up having 16 million, and they put back the waiting list. The rest of the money went to two places. Education, which I got my feelings about that, and I think that we can do tremendous amount of improvements there. Everybody says that education's underfunded, and I will agree with you. Every classroom in Maine is underfunded. Because I think education's in the classroom. But we, as a state of Maine, has 179,000 students, K through 12. And we have 127 superintendents. The state of Florida has 2.8 million children, K through 12. They have 64 superintendents. Let me go on. Their Spanish-speaking, first language Spanish-speaking children in Miami scored 1 point behind Maine in their verbals. The state of Florida is currently ranked 7th in the nation in its education system. Maine is questionably between 35th and 38th. We have not fallen behind. In the last 20 years, we've been flatline. The scores that we've had the last 20 years are statistically a flat line. Now, anybody in the medical profession says, will understand that a flat line is not good. Well, I don't think that a flat line, when you're competing against the world, that a flat line is a good way to have an education system. Now, we talked about Goodwill Hinckley a few minutes ago. Let me tell you, University of Maine Fort Kent has what's called a rural university that we've been doing behind the scenes with no money. We're doing it with the existing funding. And we have 500 kids this year attending University of Maine Rural University. And this is how it works. In 2011, we put 24 kids we picked out of the hat. We put them into this trial, this pilot program. Out of those, and these are kids that are coming out of the 10th grade going into the 11th grade. This is the results. After 2 years of being in the rural university, those 24 kids completed high school. Every single one completed high school. One of them completed high school and a year and a half of college. No tuition, no extra money. 17 completed high school and a freshman year of college. And the other 6 completed a minimum of 1 semester of college. No added cost. What we did is we challenged the kids. We put them into an uncomfortable position that they really had to work hard. And the teachers, the professors, and the high school teachers all got together and made sure that the infrastructure, the support system for them was available. That's why they succeeded. I spoke this summer, last summer, I guess it was last summer, to the superintendent of schools for the city of Shanghai. The city of Shanghai has almost 3 million kids, K through 12, or K through 11. And I asked him, what do you do with social promotion? He said, well, social promotion, don't understand. What do you do, the kids that go to school and it's just for their seat time, they fall behind? We fire the teacher. Because it's the responsibility of the teacher to keep the administration aware of the progress of all the kids and the parents. And if they fall behind, then it's their fault, because we, the school, will provide them with the tutoring and the necessary resources to keep them where they need to be. Why can't I do that in Maine? Does anybody know?
Tenure.
Yes, we all know what the problem is.
No, it's not tenure.
We all know what it is. But no one wants to deal with it because they're so powerful. Well, let me tell you how powerful they are. In 2013, the teachers union and public unions in the United States of America put up $300 million for the re-election of, for the non-re-election of 6 governors. There were 6 governors they went after. Out of the 6, they got 1. They were successful in one situation, Pennsylvania. I was number 2 on the list, and Scott Walker was number 1 on the list, and we both won, and I won with the more votes for a governor in the history of our state. So if you face up to them and you do your job, you'll be rewarded. So welfare is something I'm going to continue on. It's not a matter of refusing to give monies to people. That's not what it is. It is the things that we have done. We put a 5-year limitation on someone, and if after 5 years there's a reason why they cannot succeed, they'll take that into consideration. But what we've done is we don't allow anyone to use an EBT card to bail themselves out of jail anymore. You can't go to the strip joints. You can't buy liquor. You can't buy tobacco. And do you know that in the since October of last year, when we put pictures on EBT cards, we have not had one drug bust with EBT cards. We're not finding them with the drug dealers anymore. And I'll be honest, when I first saw it, I was really dumbfounded. I did not believe that could happen. I really didn't. I said, there's no way people are using it to pay for their drugs. The drug dealers are in the business of stealing and selling EBT cards because it's like cash. Mistake. It turns out that between the time of midnight on the day the cards are loaded, on the 10th at midnight, and 3 a.m., 50% of the state's $330 million is poof in those 3 hours. And I can give you the top 5 cities where the money goes. You ready? The Bronx, Brooklyn, Philadelphia, Kissimmee, and Las Vegas. We have the data. We have data now that I can tell you every ATM machine and how much cash has been come out of that machine through an EBT card. And I will tell you that one single machine in the state of Maine, in a city not too far from here, cashes 2% of the entire $330 million. One machine. So if you see me hollering about welfare reform, that's the kind of reform I want to go after. It's not about the young lady that's got 2 kids, single mom. I want to work with her. I want to roll up my sleeves, and I want to get her the work skills she needs to be able to someday come off and say, you know, Governor, thank you. I've got a job. I'm self-sufficient. I've gained my dignity back, and I'm proud to be contributing to the state of Maine. That's what we're trying to do. It's not about throwing people down and out. It is not about throwing people down and out. Every Saturday morning, I will have meetings in the governor's office, and people around the state come in and talk to me for 15 minutes. And the people that are there are usually the constituent services folks and the security. And you can ask anyone in my security how many people are in that office that I have personally gone to the mat to help over the last 5 years. Because it's not an individual we're after. It's after the fraud within the system. In 2010, there were 12 cases submitted to the Attorney General's office, and I think it was about 12 cases. This year, at the end of September, 1st of October, it was 82 cases. The problem? Only 25 have been brought to court because I don't have control of the Attorney General's office. They decide if they're going to try something or not try something. I have no say in it. And fortunately, we have a couple of DAs that are very aggressive, and they really get into a a major discussion with the Attorney General that they will go after these people. So these are the type of things that we deal with in welfare. We deal with the front lines. I've had more folks come in, I get phone calls at home, and I'm on it at whatever time of day or night. Foster homes, adopted kids, elderly, people with mental illness. I'm all over it. But so what you read in the newspapers, and the reason I'm doing these town halls, is what you read in the newspapers are false. The newspapers in the state of Maine are so bad that I don't even believe the obituaries. Now, let me give you a little bit. I heard earlier minimum wage. State of Maine, $7.65. New Hampshire, $7.25. New Hampshire, per capita income, $10,000 above Maine. Florida, $8 per capita income. Significant, I don't know the exact number, but significantly above Maine with no income tax. No income tax. Texas, minimum wage, $7.25. Fastest growing state in America. This is the one that gets me. The only state in America whose minimum wage is at the federal level. Does anybody know what the federal minimum wage is? No?
$10.
No?
It's down, it's like 5.
It's still in the $5 range.
Yeah, 5.20.
It has never been changed. States have all changed their individual, but the feds haven't changed it for a long time. Happens to be Wyoming, with $9 billion in the bank, with no income tax. Because they have the same philosophy I have. Why talk about minimum wage when you can talk about a prosperous wage? Why are we talking about going to $12 when you could have Airbus, who went to Alabama instead of Maine, and pay $70 an hour to assemble a jet? That's what the markets are doing. We're looking right now, we just brought in a company, I can't say it yet, because we're going to have a big talk, but this 200 just came in. Starting wage is $20 an hour. It's going to have 2 locations in Maine. I just got the word yesterday, and they're going to have a big press release shortly. So there are opportunities, but it goes back to where's the investment? You got to welcome them here, and once they get here, you can't bleed them to death. And that's what we've been doing. South Dakota, $8.50 minimum wage. They can't find people for less than $14 an hour because the market is taking over. I was telling the new mayor that Martin's, the starting wage at Martin's now is around $12. When I left, it was about $9 5 years ago. You cannot pay people minimum wage in the state of Maine. There are about 6,000 people. Is it 6,000 net of the service? About 6,000 or 8,000 people that are at minimum wage. And I will tell you one wage that the legislature is making a massive mistake is when you take away the learning wage for the mentally ill. If you take that away, you're taking a person's dignity away. Because many companies will evaluate the amount, the proficiency level that they can be at a job. And if it's only 50%, then they want to make that according in their wages. If you don't, what happens is what happened in Turner a couple of years ago. There was an organization, the Zenska, I think it's the name of it was. They were working with people with mental illness, and they shut down. because they couldn't get the contracts. So that's the type of thing we're talking about. So I believe, and incidentally, let me give you another statistic that I didn't even believe when I first took it, looked at it. Of all the people on welfare in the state of Maine, 62% of the people on welfare in the state of Maine were men between the ages of 19 and 49 and not any disability of any sort. The only disability they had, or have, because still many of them, work skills. They do not have good workforce skills, so their value is not very high in the marketplace. So what we need to do is get them the work skills they need. That's what we need to do. It's all going to be solved through education, not through handing a stipend. Next item, energy. State of Maine is number 12th highest energy cost in America. State of Maine, 64% of the energy portfolio in the state of Maine is renewable energy. 64%, number one in the country. That's very admirable. We're number 12th highest cost in America. I will say one thing though, we're number one in New England, lowest in New England. Unless the legislature comes to the realization that as long as you're in bed with the wind industry and the solar industry, you're going to have high energy costs, that you need to open it up to all of the above. With a strategy like this, we want the cleanest energy at the lowest cost. If you do that, then you bring in hydro, nuclear. Now people say, oh, boo on nuclear. Let me give you a fact. Seabrook, New Hampshire has a nuclear power plant. Point LaPro, New Brunswick, at the other end of the state, has has nuclear power plant. We don't buy the 3-cent power because we don't want nuclear power. If either one of them goes poof, we're going to suffer hard. We're going to be suffering. So, am I saying we should build them? Quite frankly, I don't think that even the Seabrook is an older generation now compared to what's out there in countries like France and other countries. So, I am just saying all of the above. Hydro. The province of Quebec has 41,000 megawatts of hydropower for sale. The state of Maine, on any given day, uses 24 megawatts. We're paying 11 cents, and they can sell it to us for 6 cents, and if we transport it down to southern New England, we might get another penny off for wheeling. These are realities. The state of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Maine are now working together for the first time since I've been governor. Working together as a coalition to work on big hydro and natural gas. When I became the governor, 82% of the homes in Maine were heated with oil. Now, we're down to 60. If I had my way, it'd be 0. Because natural gas has half the emissions, and if you're smart, you go to heat pumps, which is what the Blaine House is now. In 2011, it cost about $40,000 a year to heat the Blaine House. Today, it's about $7,500. We no longer use oil. We use heat pumps. All electricity. Finally, and I'll spend a few minutes here, and this is very important for each and every one of you that have college kids. Each and every one of you who have kids that go to CTE or community college or any form of education beyond high school that's going to cost you money. I put a plan up to the legislature that says this. The state of Maine will borrow bonds at 2.5%, 3%. We will loan the money to our kids, interest-free, and the state of Maine would pick up the debt service on the bond. All the kids have to do is work hard, their education is paid for. Then, their employer, if an employer hires them, and they pay the student loan off, we give the employer dollar for dollar credit on their income tax. So a kid in Maine could go to college, get their student debt paid off, and day one when they get that job, their money can go towards a house, car, our economy, growing the economy, not paying the student loans back to the banks. So we could, and why is that important? Because our demographics, we're the oldest state in America, and fewer workers are coming into the workplace. And people that move away to Florida, Arizona, Texas, tax-free states, kids like to be close to their parents. That's how we ended up with a house in Florida, because my wife's parents were in Florida. Her brother, sister moved to Florida. So we got a house there so we could go there once in a while. Or if you still have an income tax when I'm all done. Because I'm no fool. I love Maine, and I've given every ounce of energy I have to fix it on a fiscal policy side. But if we fail, then I have to have a backup. Because I'm going to tell you something. Social Security and a pension from my government are not going to make you, you're not going to live very well. And I'll be too old to go to Martin's again. So with that, I'm going to leave it open for questions, and I'll answer most everything that you have for me. Some of them are ideological issues, and like I said, I'm not looking to get into a negative debate here. I'm trying to tell you what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. You can agree, disagree, but at least you know the truth, not what is written in newspapers.
Thank you, Governor. We have a big crowd tonight. I will try to get to you as best I can, but I ask if you can come out to me when I say your name. You can ask your question on the microphone. Cynthia Dell, stand up. Just want to make a quick clarification. You had said the federal government's minimum wage is $7.25.
Yes.
And it is, in fact, in 2007, it was $5.50, Governor, as you said.
$5.50.
So we just wanted to make that clarification. And you did have a question, right?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Governor LePage, for being here. My question relates to national politics. Donald Trump, the Republican presidential candidate, has said that Muslims should not be allowed to enter the United States. And I was wondering if you care to comment on that. If that's
No,
your...
that's national, that's not state of Maine.
Okay,
I'm a
thank
governor, not a presidential candidate.
Do you denounce his question, or his statement, though, that Muslims should be barred from the United States, given your strong opinion about immigrants to the state of Maine?
Like I said, that is a national issue, and I'm not running for president. Now, I will say this.
Not yet.
If you can show me, and I'm going to be having a meeting with Homeland Security in the next 2 weeks, if they can convince me that the vetting process is as secure as it should be, so we can prevent San Bernardino and prevent another 9/11, because in 9/11, folks, the people that took down one of the towers came through Maine. And I don't like to have that on my watch.
Benjamin Lucier. How are you? Benjamin, where are you from?
I'm from Hollis, Maine. Yep. And then let me read your question. Maine's economy is 47th in economic growth. What tax policies...
It's actually 42nd now, after today.
Yes, sir. What tax policies moving forward should we institute just for economic growth?
Remove the income tax, lower the energy costs, and treat your students, make higher education more affordable, so the kids aren't discouraged when they get out of high school and face a $100,000 bill at the end of 4 years. If you do those things, and if you're willing to attract young people to the state of Maine who have student debt, and you let them qualify to paying it off as long as they're working in Maine, I'm all in. I think that will grow our state. We need, as a state, we need younger workers. And we need people that instead of moving to Florida for 6 months in a day, they stay here for 10 months a year and go down there during the 2 cold months. And what that means is you take the debt tax in Maine and blow it out. It's less, it doesn't register as a percentage. It doesn't register as a percentage when you look at the revenue flow to the state, but it sends a whole lot of people out of state for 6 months in a day. Just not a good program. It's not a viable way to move forward. And there's only 9 states doing it, so 41 don't have a debt tax.
Governor, here's a follow-up to that. Candace, it doesn't say where you're from, but she asked, can you talk a little bit about loan forgiveness options for students?
What's that?
Loan forgiveness options for students? Are there any programs out there for people?
Look, I don't know what a loan forgiveness program is because I've never had anybody forgive. Well, I shouldn't say that. Hudson College forgave $900 when I was graduating because I hadn't totally paid it off. But I think the program I'm offering is this. You do the work, we'll get it paid for. Now, there is a program through the Alphon Foundation that we're working with them on, that they're looking at having us, I'm paraphrasing now, they're working on, it's not announced, it's just something they're working on. They're looking to have a program that will forgive half a student's loan debt after 5 years. Now, they pay 5 years, but they'll forgive half of it, the remaining half of the remainder. And after 10 years, if they have any more debt, they'll forgive it all. There again, it's a situation trying to get people to work in Maine, contribute towards the economy, and then we will help them. But to do it on the front end is very difficult.
Loretta Dyer?
I'm here.
Oh, I know. I love it.
Anyway, I think you've already answered this question, but would you please explain the welfare portion of the referendum?
Okay. Basically, this is what we're trying to accomplish. In the referendum, the state of Maine, its regulations on welfare are significantly above the federal levels, the federal minimum. What we are trying to do is to lower the income tax and then lower the entitlements in Maine to the federal level. And then concentrate more on getting more dollars into classrooms, into the education system, away from the waste, but into the classroom. Whether it's adult ed, whether it's Learning Works, whether it's university, whether it's community college, nobody who doesn't have a high school education, unless you are 1 in a billion or 1 in hundreds of million people, are going to go from the streets to being a billionaire or a millionaire. You know, I like to say I have had modest success. I came from the streets of Lewiston and I became governor. Donald Trump is a billionaire. The only difference between Donald and I, he started with 600 million. Incidentally, I do not support it. So what we're trying to do is bring back to the minimum, make sure that there's a safety net. I believe the safety net should be for people with mental illness, people with disabilities, people that will just never achieve through intellectual problems or things that force them from not being able to work. If you're able to work and you have for instance, this is one thing we don't do in Maine, and I think we hurt ourselves. Let's say you're a gentleman, you're 45 years old, you got 2 kids in college, and you come down with cancer. But you have a house and a car, you got payments, you got 2 kids in college. You're doing very well, you get cancer. You're away from work. You go on family leave. If the treatments are more than a year, you lose everything. You go on a COLA. You no longer can afford that because now you've lost your house, because you can't pay for your house. So a person who is a doing a very good job, he loses everything. And in Maine, you qualify for no help until you sold your house, sold your car. You get no help. Those people are hitting a bump in the road. Our system should help those people. Our system should help anybody for a time frame. That's why we have the 5-year limitation. We put in a 5-year limitation. Majority of states right now are going to a 3-year limitation on tariff. It's going back to where we were. Not becoming an entitlement, but become a safety net, a true safety net. And I believe we can get there. And there are a lot of things we can do. But we need to, everybody has to contribute something, whatever it is. Some contribute a lot, some contribute a little bit. Now, back when I was in Martin's, we did a lot of work with an organization called the Clubhouse Model. There are 5 in Maine, or 4 in Maine now. There was none at one time. We put the first one in Waterville. Now there are 1 in Bangor, 1 in Waterville, 1 in Augusta, and 1 in Lewiston. The one in Waterville, these are all people that have severe mental disabilities of some form. In 2011, the total of the people, that there were 92 members, they earned about $400,000 in wages. First time they ever had any wages at all. Many of them could have earned a lot more, but if they did, they would lose their SSDI, federal program. They lose it, so they're limited on what they can work. Most people work about 20 hours. Last year, in 2014, in the city of Waterville, they earned $800,000. So the point is, this is why these lower wages are important for companies that are willing to invest the time and the energy to get people working. I had a young lady that had cerebral palsy, had a brain sharper than most of us, but she was trapped in a very crippled body, and she wanted to work. You know what job we gave her? She stayed in a room and she looked at security cameras. And she could figure out everybody that came in with the idea of stealing. She could see it on a camera. And she became just a phenomenal person at reading people on the floor. And she would position the security on the floor on, take a look in aisle 7, red coat, that kind of stuff. And she had a little thing here, a little mic that would just go out to the earpieces on the floor. So I really believe that most people can do something. And we should not take that away from them.
Okay, next question, Nick Markey. There we go. Nick, going once. Okay, Mike. And that one. Heather Saraki.
Heather. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you, this lady, she's a superstar worker in Augusta. She works night and day.
It's about the income tax. We'll be right on that.
She is just phenomenal. Persistent, and persistent.
Not to take away.
With that,
Thank you very much. The smoke detectors and the outside detectors in the state of Maine, we have a second year. We have a 5-year grant to the Red Cross, and we will install, change the batteries, million batteries for 10 years now, and at $50,000 additional to be able to do this.
thank you.
And then
I'll give you the $20 later.
Brandon Sodergren? Sodergren, okay, perfect. And I know some of our friends with the media are saying a little something about the question starting late. I'm sure the governor would
Yeah, we'll
stay
stay a
few
little
minutes
longer. Yeah,
late.
we started late,
So you
so-
can tweet that, we will stay a little later. Our friends with the media, press in particular.
Thanks for coming, Governor. My issue deals with veterans. In 2009, the veteran unemployment rate was at 6.6%. It's gone down significantly since you've been in office, and I really appreciate that. And LePage has done a phenomenal job with veterans. However, I know it's still an issue, and I'd like to tackle what we could do with the basically making the unemployment rate for veterans go down, and as well as the homelessness for veterans. And what programs are you going to utilize to tackle that?
Okay. We have a program right now called Hire a Vet. We've hired over 200. We're going to extend that. We're going to add to that. I'm looking to find ways to enhance, work with the companies to develop the skill set for some of the people that need to be work. The other thing we're doing, and this is going to come to the legislature, but I'm sure that they're going to be amenable to this, because I want to put it in Stan Josowski's going to sponsor it, and I'm sure that it'll get through. But one of the things that we're not doing, and we need to do, is when a serviceman comes back from deployment, the skills that they have in the Guard is not always used. For instance, in Iraq, we had some folks that drove tractor trailers, petroleum trucks. They come to Maine, they can't drive a tractor trailer because they don't have the proper licensing. I think that if you can driving around, Iraq, and you have these IEDs all over the place, and there's people trying to shoot you every minute that you're on the road, that you probably learn how to drive the truck. And we ought to be able to give you a break and give you a license. So these are some of the things that we're going to do that's going to upgrade their value to the marketplace. And of course, last year, the legislature did see their way to eliminating the income tax on all pensions. And incidentally, I don't know if you heard, but that is really working. We have veterans coming home from that. I've had 3 or 4 that have come by the office just to say thank you and said, I was in North Carolina, I was in Pennsylvania, I moved back home. So these are the type of things that I believe we can do, particularly with that whole income tax, because the income tax really puts more money in people's pockets. And it puts it much quicker than you realize. And I will also say that when I first came in, and I know that people don't like my welfare policies, and I can understand, fine. We are more generous than the federal government in our policies, even today. I will say this, we are saving hundreds of millions of dollars that before weren't going to the right places. Now, I wish that we had no waiting list. We still have a couple of thousand people we've got to take care of, but we've cut it in half. So we are making progress. It just takes a long time when you're dealing with 181 people. So we are getting there. That budget is allowing us to do a lot more in other areas. Unfortunately, the next one that needs attacking, and it's going to start after the next November. My last 2 years are going to be dedicated to fixing education, so we can go from 38th into the top 10, which we were 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we were number 5, and we've gone from 5 to 38 because our numbers have stayed flat, and everybody else is ticking up.
Samuel Valentine? Valentine?
So my question had to do with what sectors we want to see grow in Maine. And it kind of ties in with the income tax as well, because of the states you mentioned. They have sectors such as like oil, coal, natural resources that they can depend on in order to draw in revenue. What sectors do you see growing like that in Maine for economic growth?
I think aeronautics, machining, biotechnologies, education. I think there's many, many areas that we can grow. You know that we grow 90% of the blueberries in the world, the wild blueberries. That is a massive industry, and if we cultivate it properly, we can grow the value. If you notice the value of lobster in the last couple of years, it took a lot of hard work. It took a lot of work up in the legislature to change the rules so we could do different kinds of marketing, go worldwide instead of just here in the U.S. And that, the price of lobster just in the last 2 years have doubled. It's doubled now. Not good for Mainers, but let me tell you something. The rest of the world loves it. We've gone, in 2011, we sold 100,000 pounds of lobster to South Korea. This year, it's 500,000 pounds. They're a big, big market. China is a growing market. Although the difficulty with the Pacific Rim, they like their lobsters live, and it's really expensive to get them there live. So we've got to teach them how to use it processed. So that's an industry. Our food industry can be very, very lucrative. And the reason I say that, people in China don't feel Chinese food is safe. It isn't. It's a big issue. One of the most successful companies in China right now is IBEX, right here from Maine. They are absolutely powerful in Shanghai and in Beijing. So these are the type of things that we can do. We have an industry in Maine that you could put goggles on and you can look at a person's veins and you never have to prick a person 3 times. They're all over the world, except here in Maine we don't use them. These are the type of things that we have. So there's a lot out there that people don't even realize. We just need to market ourselves better. We need to be a little bit more assertive. We need to be more willing to. Maine Technology Institute, we need to put more money in there. We need to attract and treat them like we want them here. I met with Time Warner, is being sold to a company called Charter, telling me something. We got to get them here. They become a major player in the U.S. If you're in a business, and you don't like one of your products and you're looking to shut it off, you're not really in a growth mode. But if you're looking for a company that comes in and that's their market and they're growing their core business, then you want them here. And they create great jobs.
Andrew Kazulis.
So my question for you, Governor, is you mentioned 24 students earlier that made it through high school and succeeded with certain supports, wraparound services from teachers and professors and whatnot. My question to you is, while Maine stands as the #1 prescriber of extended release opiates in the entire country, twice the national average.
I'm sorry,
So while Maine stands out as the #1 prescriber of extended release opiates, twice the national average.
Not anymore, sir.
Okay.
In the last 4 years, we have cut the prescribing of opiates 51%.
I believe that's in the Medicaid section, not the private insurance section.
Medicaid section, which is 75%.
And indeed, the numbers are still growing
Yes.
for numbers of opiates prescribed. My question for you is, how can you help support people in treatment and recovery from substance use disorder, indeed, in the same way that you've helped these students succeed in graduating from high school and going on to have successful careers and contributing back to the state of Maine? How can we empower these people to succeed in treatment the way you've done with these students?
Okay. Well, believe me, I'm trying to work on it. Last year, 2014, state of Maine spent zero money on education for opiates. We spent $3 million in law enforcement, and we spent $76 million in treatment. $76 million. This is the problem. And I'll tell you, I'm probably guilty. Because 4 years ago, we went on a rampage about the opiate prescribing in the state of Maine. We've cut it by 50%. You know what the problem is? Heroin comes in, which is 10 times worse. Because the success rate, according to the professionals that I've been talking to recently, 90% of the people that are addicted to heroin will die. Only 10% you'll get them off. That's just what's the success rate we have now. And the problem is this. We all made a mistake in Maine. We gave everybody Narcan. And everybody seems to think that Narcan is good. Well, let me tell you what Narcan is doing. It's not saving lives. It's extending lives. For instance, 2 weeks ago, here in high school, the resource officer told me in Deering High School, one student, 3 Narcan shots in 1 week. We have got evidence of people that have had 10 shots since January. We have a young lady here in this region that's had 2 shots in the last week. So it is one of the most difficult drugs to get people weaned off. What I've been trying to do, what I'm trying to do is to try to get the supply side. Hear what I said. We spent zero on education. We spent $3 million going after the dealers, the people who bring it in from Connecticut, from New York, from Canada, by the way.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Governor, the prescribed opiates, they're not the poison being pumped up 95 by the cartels. This is 80% of heroin users wound up on heroin via a legal prescription to opiates.
I understand that.
Those are medical professionals that are prescribing
If you let me-
the highest in the nation. What are we doing to mitigate that? And then additionally, what are we doing to support treatment services like those students that succeeded
Well,
with support?
we spent $76 million in 2014. You can go up to $150 million, and you're not going to solve the problem. The problem, you hit it on the head. The problem is you've got to get people weaned off the opiate, not the heroin. You've got to prevent them from getting on the heroin. Now, there are 2 ways to do that. One way is we have the PMP system that now is mandatory in the state of Maine. A physician has to be part of it. We are tracking the prescribing of opiates. Now, however, there's pill mills coming in from Florida, from Texas. We know that. But you're going to get those people, you've got to get those people off the streets because they will have an easy way to sell them. We are treating every day, every dollar that we get from the legislature, we spend on treatment. First of all, folks, don't look at me and say you're not putting enough into treatment. Look at the legislators in here and say we need more money for treatment because we spend what they give us.
Does treatment work, Mr. Governor?
Not in heroin.
Does recovery work?
Does recovery work? 10% of the people on heroin are working. You have a better success rate with opiates, much better success rate. But it's done. The other problem we have is people that are on opiates have some very difficult time going to the specialists, like the people, that deal with, like Acadia Hospital and those. So you were trying, the new trend is to convert it to your primary care physician and get them up to speed on the treatment process. Look, I'm not the expert there. I'm just going by what we're being told. There are 2 issues. Yes, we have to attack the doctors that are prescribing opiates, and some of them are losing their licenses. As far as the pills that are coming in from Florida and Texas, we got to get those people off the streets. I agree. Treatment is fine. And we treat at 76 million. I think it's a disproportionate share of money spent on trying to treat. And the success rate is very, very low.
All right, we'll get to the last question of the evening, but first, we are. We have discussions with our policy advisors.
Ma'am, we are treating people to the tune of $76 million. That is 10% of the population of the state of Maine, which is roughly about 120,000 people. Some of them are willing to be treated, and some aren't. We cannot force people to be treated. We have drug courts. The drug court is, if you're addicted and you're caught doing something, they will help you get treatment. But you have to want it. I can't force you to be treated.
So if you missed it when you came in, we do have contact your legislator sheets. If you have an issue that you would like to address with your legislature, please contact them, because the governor can only do so much.
I can only do what they give me money. You know, if they don't give me the money, I can't do anything. I cannot appropriate.
Is there a John Kruger here?
I'm changing my mind about you on something, so thank you for being here.
My wife says that once in a while.
I guess my question is, I supported the Land for Maine's Future program, and many voters did. And I'd like to please release the bonds and allow the program.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. I have one right now. It's $1.2 million. Having been in the forestry for a lot of years and in wood products, I understand a little bit about land. It's $1.2 million. I asked the person to come in and evaluate this proposal. He's a commercial appraiser. So what's the land worth? He said $1,000 an acre. It's 164 acres. They're asking 1.2 million. So 2 people are going to make $500,000 each on the backs of Maine people. I think that's taking advantage of people. So I have had every one of them evaluated. Now, this is the facts. This gentleman right here, his name is Mike Timmons. Mike Timmons, Representative Mike Timmons, put a bill up last session to extend the bonds for 1 year so we could continue to discuss about helping poor people with their heating systems. Because Land for Maine's future helps rich people. Whether you like it or not, folks, the $1.2 million going to 2 people. Many of the projects I've seen, they go into the public care, but when you can't heat your house, you can't enjoy the park. So why don't we spread it around? Because you're asking everybody in Maine, the 803,000 people who work, have to pay back the debt service on those bonds. Those aren't free. Wait a minute. What you voted for, have you read? Please go read it. Because the Land for Maine's Future bonds that were passed. Incidentally, let me finish the story, then I'll tell you why. Number 1, Mike Timmons asked that we continue debating it for a year. A gentleman named Jeff McCabe changed it and said, kill the bill. The bonds have now expired. I couldn't sell them if I wanted to. They're done. They're gone. What the legislature has to do is reauthorize. Now, the certain bonds, there are two things that the legislature is trying to do, and I hope they do one of them, because LMF will be dead. Because they're trying to take my powers away to sell it. It's unconstitutional. If you read the Constitution, it's an executive function, and it has to stay with the governor. But even more specific, the bonds that you passed, the people passed them, but they also require the governor to sign off. And I am not going to sign off on a bill that's going to give 164 acres to a town and two people are going to make $500,000 each. I think that's gouging the taxpayer of the state of Maine. And I won't do it because it's corrupt. The governor of the state of Maine has 5 years to sell every bond. And in the fine language of the bond itself says who's going to sign off. If they say, Governor, you're gone, the treasurer's in, we'll watch what happens. It'll take 5 years for this to get resolved.
If we were wrong about the bond, are we wrong about you too?
You might be. I never said you were wrong about it. I think what you, no. What I said is this: when you passed it, you gave the governor 5 years to sell it, and you asked the governor to sign off. I am willing to sign off on it, but I'm not willing to hurt poor people more for the sake of those bonds, because those bonds I've asked so that you understand what we're talking about. To date, as I speak to you, $246 million has been bought in public lands through bonds. And the state of Maine has paid for it. And I can't get $5 million to help heating systems for poor people. I think that's wrong.
That's what efficiency
But the bond
means.
issue isn't about getting heating on the poor people. It's a separate issue.
Oh, it is?
They're interfering with the local heating.
Would you do me a favor? Would you tell the legislature when they pass a bill not to add things on the bottom of it like they do every time? If everything stands on its own, I'm all for it. But the legislature's the one that taught me how to do this.
Who do we have here tonight for legislators? Could you stand up? Who do we have here? Former, present legislators?
This gentleman right there, and I have great respect for him because he's in the second class. He's in the second class of legislature. He's willing to sell himself to other people so he can get his way done. That's not the way Mainers want things to work. They want you to be honest, whether you take a hit from you, whether you're critical, fine. But I will tell you this, I will stand very strong for the people of the state of Maine, all 1.3 million.
All right, we are at 7:25 at this point.
49%, dear.
Now, we asked for
Governor, we're giving
32?
Yeah.
The first time.
Okay.
No, we have gone over our time. We're at
Fine. It's getting
7:25.
unruly. We're not going by questions. Thank you very much.